Good morning, Charlie O'Hara here again this morning to answer your legal questions. If you have one, give us a call. Good morning, Charlie.
Good morning.
Staying warm today?
I am. Okay. Snow on the ground.
It's weird.
Late April.
It's bizarre. Yeah. We're going to go ahead and get to the phones. We have several calls this morning we'll get to. Hi there. What's your question for Charlie?
Hi. I was wanting to know, we had a guy who is working on our race car engine, and it was an $8,000 engine, and he was going to drive our race car, but when we went to pick our race car motor up, he had sold it from underneath of us. So I was wondering if there's any legal action we can take.
Well, yes. I mean, obviously that's wrong. I mean, if it's your engine and he's supposed to be working on it, he sells it, he's taken your property and converted it to his own funds. It very well may be a crime, number one, but you may be able to turn him into the police, but secondly, you can sure sue him, and if he has any money, you should get the money for that engine. I mean, he wasn't supposed to do that. That's like taking your car to a car dealer and to get it worked on, the car dealer sells it and says, too bad. I mean, that's obviously wrong. That shouldn't happen.
Okay, good question. Yeah, get an attorney quickly.
Yes.
Okay, we're going to go ahead and take another call this morning. Hi there, what's your question for Charlie?
Oh, I have a son who was on probation, and he was arrested last year for smoking K2. Well, they kept him in jail for almost a year, postponing his court dates and everything, and rescheduling him. Well, when he finally got to court, the judge finally realized that he didn't violate nothing. Is there any way I could file a lawsuit against the state for that?
Well, my dad was an attorney. He said you can always file a lawsuit. That doesn't mean you're going to win anything. And you can file a lawsuit. I don't think you're going to win in that instance. Usually when somebody's on probation and then they are alleged to have committed a violation, the judge has to make a finding. There's some evidence that they did violate their probation. And if they do, they're entitled to a hearing in a reasonable amount of time. Now, if the attorney and your son that was representing your son decided to delay the matter, well, they can delay it depending on the circumstances. And if it ends up being that he hasn't violated his probation, well, then he gets out. I don't think you have a lawsuit. If the government holds him improperly in bad faith and holds him there and keeps him there just because they want to hassle him, then you might have a lawsuit. So it depends on the circumstances. But actually, these kind of things happen somewhat frequently because people don't have the evidence and they want to make sure they're doing it right, and they delay it, and delay is usually to the advantage of the defendant. While your son may have spent some time in jail, he also got out. It sounds like he was not convicted or got out of the probation violation, so that's to his benefit too. So probably not a lawsuit, but you could look at it. The facts were going to make a big difference, actually.
Okay, thank you, Charlie. Good question. We have time now for one more this morning. We'll go ahead and get to that quickly. Hi there, what's your question for Charlie?
2.5 years ago, I broke my wrist and went to the hospital, and they told me I was lucky it was such a straight break. They said wait for the swelling to go down and go to a bone doctor and have a cast put on. And I had the cast put on, and they twisted my wrist when they were tightening the cast, and the cast came off. My hand was on sideways, and there was no way they could repair it. So I've gone 2.5 years. It's very painful, and I can't use it for anything anymore.
Okay.
I can't lift more than 15 pounds with it.
So basically, he wants to know, does he have any kind of retribution against the hospital?
Well, I don't know the circumstances, but I mean, that sounds like kind of a bad situation. If that actually happened as he described it, he probably ought to go see an attorney about that. He may have waited too long. I don't know when he discovered that his hand was sideways or when he discovered the disability that he claims that he has, and that may make a difference in whether he can file a lawsuit. He may have waited too long. But for sure, if something like that happens, you ought to see an attorney, because, I mean, that's a situation where it can affect you for the rest of your life. And if somebody messed up, you should at least get money so you can live the rest of your life.
Well, we've talked about this before. A lot of times an attorney will at least hear what you have to say before deciding whether or not to take your case on, and that's a lot of times free of charge. Because I know people are scared to call sometimes.
Yeah, and most attorneys will do that. If you go in and they'll tell you whether they have a lawsuit or not, they don't want to waste time either on something that has no merit.
Okay,
actually.
Thank you, Charlie. Have a good week.
Okay.
And thank you so much for calling in this week.